Let's do it. All right.
Oh, awesome. As a bat signal, that's your... Oh, sorry. That's your signal. That means we have to go now.
Yeah, that's what that means.
It's so cool.
She's got eyes of the bluest skies. It reminds me of her.
You fucked that up. It seems to me reminds me of childhood memories. Everything is a bright blue sky. Oh, 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 sweet child of mine. Hey, it's time for another Nerd Vomit.
It is.
Yeah,
Are you going to leave all that on there?
Probably.
Good, because I want to hear it. I want to hear how bad we sound.
Acapella. Yeah, or in general. We're seeing a movie tonight.
Yeah, the Avengers.
No, wrong universe.
Oh, I know. It's the Wildcats, right?
I wish. No. We're seeing the Justice League.
That's right. It's only the movie I've been waiting for since I was 7.
I'm in a really weird place with this film. Out of the 4 movies thus far in the DCEU,
one has been really good.
Without any reservations, I have enjoyed one. Man of Steel was about half of a good film. I honestly didn't despise Suicide Squad the way a lot of people did. It was an extremely flawed film, but I thought there were some things about it that were interesting.
It's mildly entertaining.
Yeah, Batman vs. Superman was one of the most miserable film-going experiences I've ever had in my life. Needless to say, we were both pretty disappointed in it. It's the same director is doing Justice League, though how much of a Zack Snyder film this was being debated. And I was really hoping that Josh Whedon was just going to reshoot the whole fucking movie. I mean, it certainly sounded like he was reshooting the whole movie.
The main thing I want to point out, you have to remember that at this point, everybody is so annoyed with anything Zack Snyder.
Yeah.
Pretty much the same can be said for anything DCEU. So,
except for Wonder Woman. Yeah.
Except for Wonder Woman. I'm hopeful that maybe we will enjoy the film, and most of the negativity is just the leftover feel-bads from the other movies.
I'm keeping my expectations for the film very, very low. I said to you earlier, is Wonder Woman going to do some cool shit? Is Aquaman going to do some cool shit? If yes on both of those, then I enjoyed it. That is pretty much my main...
And will we see Darkseid?
From my understanding, Darkseid was originally going to be the cliffhanger ending, but they reshot that part.
We need to see some reference to Darkseid, because it's obvious that if a Justice League Part 2 comes out, he's going to be the villain.
I'm sure there will at least be a reference. There was the Omega symbol in Dawn of Justice. At this point, it seems to me that Warner Brothers is just pushing through this whole DCEU, regardless of the quality of the films. They must make enough money to make it worth it. I know the films have yet to really be as successful as what Marvel has done. Aquaman's in the can, which I'm very excited for. That's coming out next year. And Wonder Woman 2 and Suicide Squad 2 will be beginning production very soon. There's that The Batman movie, which they've talked about, which is still sort of up in the air.
You know what? When it starts filming, I'll believe it.
Yeah, that's where I'm at with that. And then they've announced all this other stuff. They've announced Justice League Dark. They've announced Green Lantern Corps. They've announced Flashpoint, which I think is a terrible idea for a solo Flash movie. And the only reason they're doing it is because Ben Affleck wants out and they need to recast Batman.
I wonder if they're actually doing it because they don't feel that Flash can carry a whole movie.
I'm actually really excited to see Ezra Miller as the Flash. Everything I've seen of him in that character seems to be really good. In addition to that, they've also announced that Josh Whedon Batgirl movie. First, I had read that Gotham City Sirens was definitely not happening, but since then I've read some things that suggest it may be happening. They're also working on a Harley Quinn and Joker spinoff movie. And then there was that Martin Scorsese produced Joker origin film that would have been an Elseworld type movie they were talking about a while ago. DC greenlights anything that suits them. It just seems to me that nobody running this extended universe knows what the fuck they're doing. It's very frustrating because Marvel basically gave them the the formula for successfully launching a cinematic universe. Your team-up movie does not come this early in the universe. Take the time to develop your individual characters, and then you do the team-up movie.
Okay, but at the same time, a lot of people, if I'm remembering correctly, you're one of them, had said, we really don't want to see them do the Marvel thing.
I don't remember saying that, but okay.
Well, a lot of the other interviews that I've read and saw online have said that.
DC wanted to distinguish themselves from Marvel, and they chose this really unappealing aesthetic, and subsequently a lot of people have not enjoyed their films thus far. And now, because Wonder Woman was actually bright and colorful and shiny, and people really, really liked it, they're sort of backtracking and attempting to bring some of that to their grim, gritty DC universe. And like I said, they just don't know what they're doing.
You keep saying DC. It's not DC.
Well, yeah, I should clarify, it's Warner Brothers.
It's Warner Brothers. For some reason, they like Zack Snyder. Heart goes out to him for his daughter, you know.
Oh, that was very sad. Yeah, that was a tragedy for sure.
I don't know why, but they are just seriously attached to the hip of this guy.
Invested in him, yes. DC just needs to get away from these fucking bros. It needs to get away from guys like Zack Snyder and David Ayer who just have this really obnoxiously macho attitude. You know, they got a woman to direct Wonder Woman and it was really well received. Maybe you need a little more diversity behind the camera on these movies. Maybe that will help give it a different perspective.
And I think that's why I'm most excited for James Wan's take on Aquaman.
Everything I've heard about the Aquaman film has got me very excited. Everybody listening to this show by now, he's my favorite superhero. From what I've seen of Jason Momoa as Aquaman, he seems to be having a lot of fun in the part. Everything James Wan has said about his Aquaman movie makes clear to me that they have a good vision on this. Now, you want to talk about extended universes. Earlier this year, we did an episode about Mummy movies. We talked about the new Mummy movie. We talked about Universal's Dark Universe initiative. And since then, due to the less than stellar reaction to the Mummy, the big people who were running the Dark Universe project have left Universal. And now that entire cinematic universe's future is up in the air. They're retooling the Bride of Frankenstein movie they were going to make with Javier Bardem and Angelina Jolie. And I sincerely hope they still make that film.
Now, Javier Bardem.
Oh, I think he'll be a great Frankenstein. I can totally see it.
Okay, but Victor Frankenstein or Frankenstein's monster?
No, the monster. He's playing the monster.
Yeah.
He looks like Frankenstein.
That's perfect casting.
Yeah.
Looks alone, that's perfect casting.
Yeah. If Universal just wants to ditch the whole shared universe, the protogeum aspect of the Dark Universe, and just make standalone gothic monster movies, I'm all for that. I didn't hate the new Mummy. I thought it was okay. It was pretty forgettable, but it wasn't a bad film. I certainly didn't have the vitriol for it that a lot of other people did. I didn't really understand from the beginning why people were so down on the idea of a shared monsters universe. From the beginning, when they announced that Dark Universe thing, everybody hated it. Everybody was piling on Universal for it. And personally, I guess people just aren't aware of the history of that universe. And I guess most people probably don't love the Universal monsters as much as we do.
Every time they reboot...
This is the fourth attempt in the last 15 years to do this.
Every time they do it, they either add too much comedy or too much action or both.
If you look at these individual attempts to reboot the monsters, Van Helsing had a lot of fun ideas, but the execution overall was lacking. That Wolfman remake, I think about that movie a lot. It is such a frustrating film to me. Aesthetically, that Wolfman remake got so much right. To me, it really looked and felt exactly like what a modern-day Universal monster film should have looked like. But there was a lot of obvious studio tinkering with it, and you could see so clearly that a better version of that film existed at some point in production before they fucked it up. And then you had Dracula Untold, which was fine. Forgettable, but fine. And then I have a very similar reaction to the new Mummy.
Okay, so I guess what I'm trying to say is they need to quit trying to make them blockbusters. And they really just need to focus more on...
They just need to make mid-tier horror movies. They need to be classic monster movies. They need to respect the source material, and they just need to do an update for it. And Universal needs to stay out of its own way. If this latest attempt to reboot the monsters is officially dead, I'm sure they'll try again in another decade. All of these are certainly a lot better than that Robin Hood shared universe Sony is seriously doing.
How the hell are you going to do a Robin Hood shared universe?
They're doing a new Robin Hood movie, and then they want to do spin-off movies about Little John and Maid Marian. Man, who gives a shit? Oh man, I can't wait to see Will Scarlet Origins.
That is the literal definition of franchise fatigue. I don't really believe that it's a real thing.
The new Robin Hood movie is coming out. The one with Jamie Foxx as Little John. I think the failure of the Russell Crowe Robin Hood movie from, 7 or 8 years ago at this point, makes it clear that there's not a lot of modern day interest in Robin Hood. But who knows?
You know what? Arrow's really popular, so... You know what the kids really love? They love archery. Let's do another Robin Hood movie, because that hasn't failed us in the past.
Well, you know, The Hunger Games was popular, Brave was popular. Maybe you're onto something with that archery thing.
That new King Arthur movie that came out this year.
Oh, yeah, that was a shit
that
show.
I haven't seen yet. And I probably won't.
I haven't seen it yet either.
Awful.
Well, what bothered me about that new King Arthur, and what bothers me about a lot of these recent reboots, they just seem to lose the spirit of the characters. On principle, the idea of building a franchise around a King Arthur movie is a really great idea. I would love to see a Lord of the Rings style take on King Arthur, a really epic, big, sweeping fantasy take on that story.
I agree.
We've never really gotten, I mean, I know Excalibur was kind of that, but that was back in the 70s, and not the kind of movie that would get made today. I like that film a lot. Instead, they made it Guy Ritchie's King Arthur. It was Snatch in medieval England, and no thank you. I feel like you could probably wager that same issue with The Mummy, where they were trying to take this character and squeeze it into a box it didn't really belong in. Talking about franchise fatigue, what do we think of Sony's attempt to build Spider-Man adjacent spin-off movies? The Venom film with Tom Hardy is moving forward. They've cast Michelle Williams in it and a bunch of other people.
Okay, well, here's my argument with that, is Tom Hardy is a pretty decent actor.
Yeah. When they announced that he was attached to Venom, that suddenly made me way more interested in that
Okay, but
project.
is he going to do the Bane voice? Because...
Yes, he will.
Yes, Spider-Man.
It is I, Venom, your arch nemesis. Yes, we are going to eat your brains.
Aside from the fact that that voice just really got on my nerves.
The Bane voice will never stop being funny.
Then I am not ready to listen to another 4 or 5 years of listening to people bitch about the fucking voice.
People will bitch about anything. The whole idea of doing a Venom movie without Spider-Man is the part that gets me. And they're working on that Silver Sable Black Cat team-up movie, which potentially could be
Silver
cool.
Cat.
Does anybody in the public give a shit about Silver Sable? They even know who she is. Maybe if they sell it like Atomic Blonde, where it's just badass chicks kicking butt, maybe people will go see it. But then they announce stuff like Nightwatch, this Spawn ripoff that appeared in a Spider-Man comic 15 years ago, and nobody gives a shit about it. Just yesterday, they announced that they're working on a Morbius the Living Vampire movie.
Sucks that he won't be fighting Spider-Man, but that is a character, that is a Spider-Man villain I have been wanting to see in a movie forever.
Well, with the exception of Nightwatch, who I do not care about in the least, all of these characters would be better served appearing in a real, honest-to-God Spider-Man movie, instead of being shoehorned into a solo film.
Well, you're right.
And who's to say any of this shit's even gonna fucking happen? I'm pretty sure the Venom movie is going to happen at this point, but all those other projects, I'm not convinced they're real.
Does Marvel have the rights to any villains that they put in these movies? If Sony uses Venom, is Marvel not allowed to use Venom? I don't understand how that partnership is working.
I think if Marvel wanted to use Tom Hardy as Venom in a Spider-Man movie, they could, but I think the general handshake agreement right now is they won't. They've agreed to keep the main Spider-Man movies and the spin-off movie separate, which I think is going to really confuse people. But then again, I say it's going to really confuse people, but most people don't even know that Spider-Man and Superman aren't in the same universe, so who the fuck knows? The differences between the Marvel and the DC universe, a lot of people probably aren't even really that aware of it. It's just us fucking nerds and our insular internet nerd bubbles that drive ourselves insane thinking about the specifics of the shit.
I don't know, but can Fantastic Four join the Avengers yet?
Can we just get the Fantastic Four in the MCU? I don't care about X-Men. There was that news story recently where Disney they were meeting with Fox. They were considering perhaps buying Fox's film division, which I thought was a really scary prospect. Most people's immediate reaction to that was, oh man, the X-Men are going to be in the MCU. My immediate reaction was, I really don't want Disney to have a monopoly on Hollywood.
Well, not only that, but why X-Men? It seems to have a handle on those characters.
Yeah, the last couple X-Men movies I all enjoyed a lot.
In my opinion, they get progressively better.
I'm intrigued by the New Mutants.
I like that whole superhero horror movie. Something that I don't think we've even really seen.
Debatably. Something like Ghost Rider or Spawn had horror elements, but I don't think we've seen a superhero horror hybrid really go for it before. No.
Yeah, so why you gotta contradict me?
Alright, well...
Why you gotta be the smartest person in the room,
because that's who I am, JD! How long have we known each other?
Too fucking long.
This is who I am. Exactly. You know what's a shared universe I am really excited about?
If you say Sonic the Hedgehog, I swear to God, I'll punch
Legendary's Monsterverse.
Oh. Yeah.
The Godzilla movie, overall, I really, really liked it a lot. Honestly, I admire a lot of the choices they made. No, it bugged some people, but fuck it, I don't care about those people. Skull Island was a blast, and I'm super pumped for King of the Monsters, and I am more than pumped for Godzilla vs. Kong. Put that movie inside me. I want to see it now.
Lube or no lube?
Yeah. Man, what if King of Monsters is a huge hit, and suddenly we have the prospects of a Mothra solo movie? That's a spin-off that makes sense to me. And
Toho's been doing that since the 50s.
Yeah.
So, well...
Yeah, basically,
60s.
more or less. Toho's doing their own thing. They're making a Rampage movie. They're just crawling in kaiju films right now, and I couldn't be happier about it.
God, I can't wait for that. It's going to be terrible, but we're seeing that movie.
Yeah, there's no way...
I'm not giving you a choice on that.
The Rampage movie probably will be awful, but I am looking forward to it. Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson with a giant gorilla. Fuck yeah, I'll go see that on a Sunday afternoon.
There's no way we're not seeing that movie. I'm sorry. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it.
So much has happened since I last saw you. I lost my hammer, like yesterday, so that's still pretty fresh. And then I went on a journey of self-discovery, where I met you. Hela, the goddess of death, has invaded Asgard.
Oh, I've missed this.
And you and I had a fight recently.
Did I win?
No, I won, easily.
Doesn't sound right.
Well, it's true.
Asgard is dead.
This would be such fun.
Speaking of big superhero movies, we saw Thor, the new Thor film, Thor Ragnarok, which had one of the best trailers in recent memory. Gotta tell you, that was a pretty good movie.
Yeah, it was really good.
I enjoyed it a lot. You know what I loved was the score. Mark Mothersbaugh from Devo did the music for this film, and it has a mix of traditional big orchestral elements, but also a synth element. And you know I loved that. Music was great.
And I love the use of that Led Zeppelin song that I can never remember.
The Immigrant Song. They put an awesome song in the trailer, and then it's actually in the movie. They don't do it often enough, of moving Thor into this wackier, denser science fiction element. All the new characters in the film were fantastic. I loved Tessa Thomas as Valkyrie.
And I really like how Marvel answered the pleas for Planet Hawk without actually doing a Planet Hawk movie.
Yeah.
I thought that was a really clever way to do it.
Even had Borg and Meek in it. It's pronounced Meek, by the way. I've been saying it Miak all these years. And they were awesome! I loved that whole take on that character. Soft-spoken, kind of doofy rock alien monster.
Yeah.
Jeff Goldblum was hilarious as the Grandmaster. He was just doing a wacky Jeff Goldblum character. Action was really fantastic.
I can't wait to see Benicio del Toro going head-to-head in his wig as the Collector, and Jeff Goldblum doing his thing as the Grand Master.
There's no way those two aren't going to meet in Infinity Wars.
They have to, right?
I feel like that's definitely going to happen. These huge action set pieces like the Hawk fighting Fenrir the Giant Wolf, or Thor blowing up a whole bridge of zombie Vikings, and everybody in the movie gets a lot to do. Carl Urban as Scourge the Executioner gets a lot to do. Idris Elba gets a lot to do. The only person in the movie that I would have liked to have seen more of, and I think it's just because she's so awesome, is Cate Blanchett as Hela.
See, it goes back to that whole thing of she actually works better in the smaller dose. Goth Blanchett works really great in those tiny little doses. Marvel really needed a great villain. They ran the risk of, if they gave it too much airtime, maybe it might have gone against it.
My only complaint with Thor Ragnarok, which I liked a whole bunch, was just two things. I wanted to see more Hela. Every time she's on screen, she's great. And I do think splitting the story so much in between the two locations, between Thor down here in this weird alien world and what's going on in Asgard, was a little weird for the pacing. But overall, I loved Thor Ragnarok. Definitely the best of the Thor movies. And unlike most people, we both enjoyed the previous Thor films.
Yeah.
Dark World has some pretty glaring flaws, but I still enjoyed it.
The flaws in Thor: The Dark World can be overlooked by the great characterizations. Kat Dennings,
Kat Denning as
Meh Meh.
Darcy. Mew Mew.
That's my favorite joke in any Marvel movie ever.
It's one of my favorites. Dark World has some really cool action beats in the last act. It's got a really fun group of characters. Weak
But the
points.
villain's vanilla.
Villain is terrible, completely a blank. Malekith brought nothing to that film. And overall, the plot is who gives a shit. But I don't dislike that film, and I really like the first Thor. I don't understand why people are so down on those two movies.
The first Thor was a pretty solid
Yeah.
Thor film.
Ragnarok's obviously better than either of them.
Well, yeah, it's definitely the best in that franchise.
I guess we probably come off like Marvel fanboys because we talk about it a lot. Generally speaking, I have enjoyed the majority of those films, and I'm looking forward to Infinity Wars, though my main concern with that is they've been building up Thanos. I almost said Darkseid. They've been building up Thanos for almost a decade
Same
at this
thing.
point. How is anything going to live up to that hype? At this point, they seem to have a pretty good handle on things, though.
Now that looks like fun. Mind if we play?
Dibs on the magic, lady. We fight as a team, Mikey. Fine.
Hey, let's talk about some video games. There was a cool announcement recently.
Oh, yeah, you're talking about Enchantress. I'm into Injustice 2, right?
Sure.
Or do you mean the Teenage Mutant Ninja fucking Turtles?
I feel like we have talked about some NetherRealm Studios video game every single Nerd Vomit episode, but whatever, it's a tradition at this point.
But this one's really cool. They do guest characters and people are losing their shit because there are so many DC characters that they could actually do as DLC, but instead they're wasting their spots on Mortal Kombat characters and these guest characters.
I get that, but at the same time,
Ed Boon has also said that the guest characters are the ones that sell the most.
I don't give a shit about that. To me, it's just fun that Injustice has become this franchise where any character can be in it. It's primarily DC, but hey, we've got Hellboy, we've got Mortal Kombat characters, and now we got the fucking Ninja Turtles. Maybe if you hold your anuses real tight and wish really hard, we can get, I don't know, something else from your childhood toy box in there. Throw in fucking Optimus Prime. I don't give a shit.
Skeletor.
Yeah! That would be great, actually.
And technically, he's a DC character. They would totally have the right to do that.
Skeletor would fit in 100% with Injustice. He fits that aesthetic so well. Still haven't actually played the new one.
I know, once the Ninja Turtles comes out, it's on. It has to come up here.
You need to bring your game station over so I can play as the Ninja Turtles. Speaking of video games, everybody knows what my most anticipated video game release of the year was. It was Sonic-Mania. I've had a chance to play it. I love it. It brought me to tears. It's the Sonic game I've been waiting 20 years to play. It's the kind of thing I never thought I would get. And now that Sonic Forces has come out, the new 3D Sonic game, and it's mediocre just like all the other Sonic 3D games, kind of hope that Sega's just going to focus on the classic 2D aspect of that franchise from now on. And I know that's going to piss off some Sonic fans, but I don't give a shit what they think.
At the very least, they need to have the guy that did this.
Yeah, Christian Whitehead.
They really need to have him do any more 2D titles that they do.
Absolutely.
I think they did the right kind of release. It was the right price. It was like $20.
Yeah.
Did it digitally, which was the right way to release that game, in my opinion.
Yeah, I just loved it. I thought it was so fantastically well done. Speaking of Sonic, any excuse to bring up Sonic the Hedgehog. For you, it's Batman. For me, it's Sonic. Recently, John Carpenter, Bangers and Mash favorite, announced that he is a fan of the Sonic the Hedgehog franchise, which is, to me, like hearing my two favorite heroes like the same sort of sandwich. That was huge news. That was even huge news.
I don't know how that's huge news.
It's huge. It's huge, JD. Think about it. In between recording soundtracks for Prince of Darkness and Escape from L.A., John Carpenter was playing Sonic 3 and Knuckles. How was your Halloween, JD?
My Halloween was Amazeballs.
Amazeballs! Wow, I haven't heard that expression since college.
You're welcome. I brought it back.
You're bringing that one back.
I'm bringing it back.
Halloween this year, I always try and make the most of it. Officially, I celebrate Halloween for 6 weeks. Really, in truth, it kind of never stops. I had plans for the 31st at the start of October. Those plans ended up being abandoned kind of suddenly. And at the last minute, I had to make new plans for the 31st. And I ended up going over to your house on Halloween this year, Jay.
Yeah.
We handed out candy together. We both dressed up. Lots of kids came in. Your yard was full of all sorts of crazy decorations. It was a really good time, I have to say. I had fun.
I am glad to hear that, because I had fun too.
You want to talk about our costumes some?
You had the more interesting costume.
Around Halloween, for some reason it was exclusive to Target. They did a line of Universal Monster-themed costumes and decorations and stuff of that nature. Really cool idea. The day we were in Target, and we were actually together, and we came around a corner, and there was a wall of Universal Monster stuff, and I almost hyperventilated from excitement. And they had this goofy-looking creature from the Black Lagoon mask. And I thought, well, there's no way I can do a whole creature from the Black Lagoon costume. But then I thought, but wait, what if I get the mask and then put on a raincoat and a hat and a scarf, and then I can be Uncle Gil from the Munsters, which is exactly what I did. I haven't done a really elaborate costume like that in a few years, and it was a lot of fun. I couldn't see shit out of that fucking mask. It was like looking through 2 quarter-sized holes for most of the night. I had fun doing it.
I don't even think they were quarter-sized. They might have been dime-sized. You guys may know this, but I help out on a local haunted trail. I got this green gargoyle demon-looking mask, which scared the shit out of a lot of people. It freaked them out. My makeup was this very dark moss monster type of thing.
Cool.
And I had green claws and this long flowing robe, getting people that way too, because they couldn't tell what I was. It looked like the forest moving at them. Got to hang out with you and hand out candy.
Yeah, and what were some of our favorite costumes we saw trick-or-treaters that night?
Very thematic. We had a whole league of trick-or-treaters come in, if you will,
yeah,
dressed up as the Justice League. It was 2 dads, a whole bunch of kids.
I don't know if it was a dad and an uncle or what. The 2 adult men were dressed as the Flash and the Green Lantern. The little kid, looked like he was 5 years old, was Batman. And they had a daughter who looked like she was maybe 10 or 12, was Wonder Woman. And they said the baby was Superman, but he stayed at home. You guys actually said that you got less trick-or-treaters this year than you usually did, but it was still way more than I'm used to.
Really?
Halloween has been officially over for a couple of weeks now. I've mourned. I've put away my Halloween decoration.
I haven't.
Thanksgiving is next week, and then, of course,
no, it's not.
Christmas starts then.
No, it doesn't.
I'm at the point where, yeah, I'm okay with it not being Halloween, but I know probably within a few weeks I'm going to start preparing for next year.
I usually try from from the last week of November through December to give Thanksgiving and Christmas their dues. But I gotta tell you, man, I'm having a really hard time getting over this Halloween. I don't know why.
It's been such a nice fall this year.
The atmosphere was great. Had that great fall smell. At one point in time, you and I were standing out on your porch, and I was, man, it smells like Halloween out here. I think I was letting your dog out.
Yeah, and we went out on the porch and you just said, it just feels so nice, it just feels so much like autumn. And I'm like, yeah, it does. And I kept waiting for you to prank me.
No, because I know how much you care about atmosphere.
It was a very sincere moment, and I'm not used to it, and it frightened me, frankly. You told me that you guys threw that Halloween display together within a few hours, which is really impressive to me.
Yeah, the only thing that was up was the horse and carriage and the Grim Reaper on the motorcycle. Everything else was pretty much done that day.
It was a good Halloween, pretty well. It wasn't without some bumps in the road, but overall, it was a good time.
Since we're still talking about Halloween, I got to take my two little nephews to Malloween at a local mall.
Now, how was that?
Well, that kind of sucked, but it was fun getting to spend the time with the boys, and Johnny was dressed up as Thor, carrying his little Thor hammer in one hand and his Halloween bucket in the other.
That's adorable. How do you feel about the whole idea of doing trick-or-treating at the mall? I did it once years ago. I was 5 or 6 years old, and I remember being super disappointed in it because they just corralled us through the mall. We went from store to store, got our candy. There was just no excitement to it for me.
I did the mall thing once. It was awful. And I think that's really great that a mall would want to do that.
I guess.
Don't single file line it. It makes it feel like prison, and it's not very fun. It should be like it is on the streets, kids running door to door.
Anything that takes the adventure and danger out of Halloween, so to speak, is sort of lame to me.
I really despise this idea of trunk or treat. If I ever get cursed with progeny, I am never taking my kids to a trunk or treat just on principle alone.
Anti-ethical to everything that Halloween represents to me.
You can't wear anything scary or
fuck
offensive.
That. Fuck that.
Can't wear anything violent.
That is a bunch of honky bullshit. I saw this great post on social media. Some kid somewhere, his school said you can't dress up on Halloween. On the 31st, he wore a red and green striped sweater and a hat and said, what, these are just my clothes for today. Sticking it to the man. That's what Halloween's all about.
If you don't like Halloween, fuck you. I don't want to know you.
He who has grown tired of Halloween has grown tired of life.
While we're griping about it.
This has become the Bangers and Match bitching hour here.
You're one of those pansy-ass moms that are trying to raise this little bitch-ass kid that can't even walk up a haunted yard to get their candy, and then you want to bitch at us for decorating and having fun on our holiday? Stay the fuck indoors. Don't let your kid come out. Take them to a trunk-or-treat. You know, that's what trunk-or-treat's for, is those little sensitive kids. No, fuck you. Just let your kids have fun.
And I'm gonna meet you, pansy-ass bitches in the Thunderdome on July 15th at WrestleMania 17! That's you. That's what you sound like right now.
Well, I don't care. It pisses me off. That's my PSA for the day.
Well, obviously this is a subject we're very...
The power is yours, America.
The more you know. We're going to be giving you our direct thoughts right after we see Justice League. First off, I just want to thank Lee for leaving a nice comment on the last episode. Lee has been a regular commenter and listener for most of the show's lifespan at this point, and I really want to thank you for that. Everybody else who has ever written to us or listened to the show. So we're going to be signing off for now. Through the power of editing, it'll be coming to you instantly, but for us it'll be a few hours into the future. Alright, we're cutting it off here, right now. Okay, we just got out of Justice League. Initial thoughts.
It's definitely way better than the reviews it's been getting online.
The reaction to the film has been primarily negative, acidic, and I thought the movie was pretty good. It's way better than Dawn of Justice.
Definitely way better than Dawn of Justice.
Yeah, it's a big step up from that film. Get some of the complaints. In some ways, the movie does feel minor and small. To me, this does not feel as big in scope as something like the Avengers movies have felt. But I actually sort of like that. Maybe focus a little bit more on getting these characters together than on the spectacle, and it's not as if there isn't tons of spectacle. My main issues with the film, first act is a little slow. Getting the team together, introducing several new characters. There's a lot of information being pumped out to the audience in a short amount of time. There is a blatant exposition scene where Wonder Woman shows up and says, yeah, this is the bad guy, this is what he wants, this is what we gotta do to stop him. But once we get through that stuff and the team's all together and they're fighting Eve, I have to say that stuff was really, really satisfying.
Yeah, oh my god, Superman actually saves people.
Okay, yeah, obviously Superman's back from the dead.
Spoiler alert.
By the time this comes out, everybody will have seen the movie. That initial scene where he first comes back and he is confused and attacking people, I didn't really like that. I was getting some Dawn of Justice flashbacks there. They reprised the "Do you bleed" line in a way that kind of made me groan a little. But after that, Superman stops being an asshole and he immediately gets down to business, which is nice. And when he comes in at the end, it's awesome.
He's saving people.
He smiles the whole time.
He just needed to die and come back and be an asshole for 5 minutes, and then he
he went back to his farmhouse and got lucky in the cornfield.
Yeah, obviously banged Lois Lane.
They don't show it, they don't even allude to it, but it's pretty obvious. He comes back in a much better mood.
And it's the Superman we've been wanting to see on screen.
Yeah.
Breakout star of this movie, to me, is clearly going to be Ezra Miller as Barry Allen. He's really, really funny. He's the comic relief character, but he's great.
Yeah, he actually has some pretty good comedic timing. He doesn't seem all there.
Yeah, he plays as if he's on the spectrum a little bit.
Yeah, because he even goes as far as like saying he needs friends, he needs people that can keep up with him.
Miller gets so many funny lines about how I'm a snack hole. Obviously, the most important stuff for me is the Aquaman stuff. Jason Momoa is playing the character in a way that's very different from the traditional comic book Aquaman. People have been calling him frat bro Aquaman, and I don't think that's an entirely inaccurate description, but I like what he's doing. He's having fun. This is obviously closer to the 90s Barbarian King, Peter David style Aquaman. Gets a great moment involving the lasso of truth that I thought was awesome.
Yeah, that was pretty good. I liked the Mira stuff, actually.
Mira's role is a lot smaller than we were led to believe. It's obvious that they're changing her backstory some. She mentions how Queen Atlanta raised her, which is very different from Mira's usual backstory. Obviously, we'll be getting into that stuff more in the Aquaman movie. Would have liked to have seen more of Atlantis. There's actually very little Atlantis in the movie. Basically, the one Atlantean scene is when the Steppenwolf shows up, grabs the mother box, skedaddles. Cool to see that stuff, and it was cool to see Mira. Overall, I liked Momoa in the part. I thought he was pretty good. I mean, the movie's not about Atlantis, it's about the Justice League.
The hard water powers are in it. I really wasn't expecting them to go with that, and they kind of did.
Yeah, that was cool how she opens up this little oxygen bubble so they can talk to each other.
Do you talk to fish? And he's like, it's more like the ocean talks to them.
Yeah, they dance around that. There's actually no scenes of him using his telepathy to communicate with sea animals. Obviously, Gal Gadot is really good. I'm not too sure how I feel about this whole revelation that since Steve Trevor died in World War I, she's just been hiding in the shadows. That seems to contradict the end of Wonder Woman a little. I guess we'll learn more about that in Wonder Woman 2. Affleck's pretty good. He gets a lot more to do in this movie, it felt like, than in Dawn of Justice. In that movie, he's just brooding the whole time. In this one, he actually acts.
Oh, I don't know, interacts with people?
Obvious which scenes were directed by Zack Snyder and which scenes were directed by Josh Whedon. The sequence where Steppenwolf teleports onto Paradise Island and is fighting the Amazons, that is 100% pure Snyder. It has the slow motion and the soft focus explosions and everything is shiny. The whole time I'm watching this, I'm thinking like, oh man, I am so over Zack Snyder's aesthetic. Other than that sequence, there's a couple other scenes where there's some of that, what they call the ramping, where it gets really slow and then really fast. But for the most part, I really feel like this is a Josh Whedon film. As much of the snappy dialogue when Superman throws Batman into a cop car and he says, yep, something's bleeding.
Yeah, that was definitely a Whedon.
That was a Whedonism for sure. I thought that was fine. It's obvious a lot of footage was cut out. The scene in the trailer where Alfred at the command center and Superman appears off screen and he says they've been waiting for you, that's not in the movie. There are other scenes in the trailer that were obviously cut. It's evident there was a lot of footage that wasn't used, a lot of footage that was removed. The movie actually runs just under 2 hours. And Dawn of Justice ran for almost 3 and felt like it was 6. And this movie runs for almost 2 and feels like a 90-minute movie. It's very quick. For one, really appreciated that. Because I feel like most modern blockbusters are too long. There's really only 3 or 4 huge action sequences in this film.
Yeah, but the pacing's better.
The film is pretty well paced. The action scenes are great. The whole sequence in the Gotham Harbor, I loved with the Nightcrawler. That was cool. That was really well done. And then the last act when they're fighting the Parademons and Steppenwolf in some generic Eastern European country. Generikistan.
They kind of mentioned Darkseid.
Okay, yeah, let's talk about some of the references and hints at the further DCEU. There is a Green Lantern cameo of sorts.
Yeah. Kind of looks like a little bit like Timar Ray, don't it?
Yeah, it's some ancient Green Lantern. You see the ring, you see the green emblem. He's making constructs. It's obviously a Green Lantern. Darkseid is not in the movie. I think Darkseid was in one of the cuts of this film, but not in the one that came out. And Steppenwolf is acting as a lone agent, though he does mention Darkseid at least once. In probably Zack Snyder's original cut of this movie, there was a lot more stuff to do with Darkseid and Apocalypse and all of that.
Yeah, and that might have been stuff that Whedon took out of the movie.
Really love Jeremy Irons in this. I thought he was good in Dawn of Justice. He gets more to do in this.
His Alfred is growing on me, and I like that he says Aquaman.
Oh my god, that was so great. Oh, and Cyborg says Booyah, which is very important.
That completely changed my view of him.
We've talked about before how Cyborg is not our favorite Justice League member, but he's pretty good in this movie. Ray Fisher, the actor playing him, is good. His dad, who's played by Joe Morton from Terminator 2 and Eureka and 100 other things, the brother from outer space, he's in the movie. He plays a pretty big role in the first third and then just vanishes, so I feel like that's more cut material there. Some people have complained about the CGI in the film.
Well, I agree.
The CGI probably needed another go-around.
It was almost there, but there are parts that look like a video game cutscene, and
Cyborg looks looks a little weird from time to time, and Steppenwolf, his face especially, looks a little weird.
Yeah.
Somebody on the internet said that Steppenwolf is the worst villain in a comic book movie. Nah,
He's a pretty imposing villain.
he's nothing special. He's not super memorable, but he totally works for the purpose of the film. I had no problem with that. The parademons were cool.
People need to realize that this movie is about setting up the team. It's not so much about...
Do you love that Wonder Woman gets her own little action sequence at the beginning of the movie? I still don't really like the Flash suit, but it is growing on me. And he has some really cool stuff. The scene where Bruce Wayne says to him, just save one, and then he ends up saving everybody. That was nice.
The Flash suit, the more you see it, the better it looks.
I guess.
You get to see it moving more, and it makes more sense.
My only real issue with the narrative of the film is a moment where Superman comes back, he's a little crazy for a little, everybody's fighting Superman, and they just forget about the mother box being left unprotected, so Steppenwolf can swoop in and grab it, and we can set up our big last act. That was a pretty minor complaint. It's probably my least favorite superhero film of the year thus far, but don't hold that against the movie. This has been an excellent year for superhero films. You know, I would put it above Power Rangers. Give it that.
Yeah.
It was better than Power Rangers. Put that on the poster. It totally satisfied me. It hit the beats I wanted to see in a Justice League movie. It had the team working together, the characters were handled well, the action was solid, the acting I thought was good. It's not going to blow your mind or anything, but baby steps, man, baby steps.
Like you, it hit all the notes that I was wanting it to hit.
Yeah, and there's a lot of little things set up. You know, they really hyped up J.K. Simmons as Commissioner Gordon, and he has 1 or 2 scenes in the movie.
If the Batman ever comes out, I'm really excited to see
more of him.
Yeah.
Which I'm sure we will. Important thing about the music, they use the Batman theme everybody knows, and they use Superman theme everybody knows. Good. I did not particularly care for Hans Zimmer's Man of Steel score. It was okay, but it was pretty forgettable. I didn't particularly care for his Batman scores. I don't think there's anything wrong with using the superhero themes people fucking know.
I agree. One thing it does is it hits you in the feels.
Exactly. It gives you that immediate reaction.
Once you hear that, you're immediately engaged in the movie because it's something you know.
Yeah. So do we want to talk about that post-credit scene? The first post-credit scene is really the cute little joke moment that I liked a lot. It's a moment that's happened many, many times in the comics, but I'm referring to the end of the end credit scene. It's been admitted that originally the movie was going to end by setting up Darkseid for Justice League Part 2. But since that plan's been abandoned, we have a completely different post-credit teaser that sets up an entirely different adversary for whatever the next Justice League movie is called.
The motherfucking Legion of motherfucking Doom.
Lex Luthor is in the movie, Deathstroke is in the movie, he even takes his mask off. We have Jesse Eisenberg's Lex Luthor saying, Superman's put together a league, I think it's about time we put together, and I was thinking, Legion. Say Legion, but no, he says a league of our own. Obviously, they're setting up the Legion of Doom. That's pretty fucking cool.
They'll call it the Injustice League, just to piss us off. I'm so excited for that. I really hope we get some good villains in some of these movies. I mean, obviously, they're going to set up Ocean Master in the next movie.
Aquaman's going to have both Ocean Master and Black Manta in, and they've both been cast, they're both in the movie, so we know that's happening. And we still don't know what Wonder Woman 2 is going to do.
Well, hopefully they do Circe so that we can get or Cheetah.
Cheetah's kind of a weird character. I think Circe would probably be a little more palatable, especially considering the direction they went with the first Wonder Woman. But I want to see Cheetah. I mean, I love Circe. She's actually my favorite Wonder Woman villain. But Cheetah is the Wonder Woman villain everybody knows, so they should get her in the movie somehow.
They could tie them in together. Circe could...
Well, she does turn people into animals, yeah. Overall, it's not going to blow your mind. It is a little messy. It is evident that a lot was cut and rearranged and rewritten, but I thought the movie was okay. I had a good time with it. This is a solid 3-star film for me. I would recommend it.
Yeah, I mean, I would recommend it as well.
Anything else you want to say before we sign off?
No.
They set up the Hall of Justice, too. That's important.
Oh, yeah, that was important. The Hall of motherfucking Justice.
Okay, now we're done. And thank you for listening. As always, I'm Mr. Bangers. This has been...
Mr. Mash.
This has been the Bangers and Mash Show. The fuck? What am I doing? I have no idea. Oh.
Is Batman a C-lister? Is that what you think? Poppycock! He knows how to take a beating, never giving up until he wins. And why? Because he has heart. And heart is the only superpower you need. Super breath can come in fire, frost, or just plain bad. Shrinking's a power, but it's kinda sad. Shifting shape into a snake can give folks quite a fright. But only your heart will win us the fight. There's portal creation and astral projection, telekinesis and dead resurrection. With mind control you're on a roll, and if you're lucky, flight. But only your heart will win us the fight. Who are you? Just a man or a Superman? The man we turn to for the plan. just a man or a Superman? The man we need to take a stand. There's time travel, stretching and even wall crawling. A sonic scream helps you with your bad guy brawling. Fist of steel can make you feel an increased sense of might, but only your heart will win us the fight. Who are you, just a man or a Superman? The man we turn to for the plan. Who are you, just a man or a Superman? The man we need to take a stand.
What was that?
I call it Aquaman's rousing song of heroism. You don't look roused.